Hello student, in this video we will discuss about the respiratory regulation of pH. Respiratory regulation of the pH is the second mechanism of the regulation of the pH, and this one is the second line defense against the pH. Means after the function of the buffer, this respiratory regulation pH plays important role. So student, here I have made one of the flow of chart. This part I have mentioned here. These are the cells, and this part is the extracellular fluid and the plasma, and the last one is the lungs. So how the respiratory regulation pH works inside in our body? So you can see here, whenever the partial pressure of the CO2 increases, so inside the cell, yes, due to the exercise, due to the any cellular, so as the concentration of CO2 increases inside the cell due to the exercise or any cellular metabolism, so because of that the partial pressure of the CO2 increases, and because of that the pH gets changed. So partial pressure is directly proportional to change in a pH, and because of that that CO2 increases, so it can diffuse through the cell membrane easily, and it go into the extracellular fluid or the plasma. So because the concentration of the CO2 increases in the extracellular fluid and then or in a plasma, so this condition is known as plasma acidosis. Yes, and because of that that CO2 get transferred through the blood inside the lungs, and this concentration of the CO2 and the partial pressure of the CO2 increases inside the lungs. So because of that that CO2 get eliminated means it get released from the lungs. So whenever the concentration of the CO2 increases inside the lungs, so the respiratory rate also increases. So this condition is known as hyperventilation, means the respiration rate increases. So from here I can say the respiration rate is directly proportional to change in a pH. So student, here you can see the respiration rate, who control the respiration rate in our body. So it is controlled by the chemoreceptor. This chemoreceptor is the very sensitive towards the change in a pH. So I have told you the change in the pH is directly proportional to respiration rate. Then how does the respiratory system work inside in our body against the change in a pH? So whenever change in a pH takes place in our bodies, so respiratory system does function as soon as possible or immediately. So because of that respiration can maintain pH near about normal pH, but it cannot maintain completely. Yes. Then next one, student, we are going to discuss about the action of hemoglobin. How does hemoglobin work inside in our body? So the main function, you know very well, it carry oxygen from the lungs to the each part of the body or the cell. But apart from that, hemoglobin playing also important role to maintain the pH. So how does it work in our body? You can see here, whenever the concentration of the CO2 or the partial pressure of the CO2 increases, so hemoglobin transport that CO2 from tissue to the lungs. So it depend in the change in pH. So as the change in pH takes place minimally or minimum, so it can easily it can as soon as possible transport that CO2 from tissue to the lungs. Then apart from that, it also generate the bicarbonate uh, by the help of carbonic anhydrase enzyme. It's a very important enzyme. So how the bicarbonate form inside the body fluid? So whenever the CO2 partial pressure increases, so it can react with water in the in the presence of the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, and it produce carbonic acid. After the formation of the carbonic acid, it can generate H plus and bicarbonate. So student, you can understand how the bicarbonate is generated by the help of hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is playing very important role to generate the bicarbonate, as well as it also transport the CO2 to maintain the pH of our body fluid. Thank you.